Hi, and welcome to the Tea with Intuitives podcast. I'm Melly, an Akashic reader, past life psychic, and channeling coach. And my usual co-host, Brittany, is on hiatus for the remainder of the year. And if you want to know what she's up to, stick around because I'm going to tell you about it at the end of the episode. Today we are welcoming special guest Samantha Jones, who is a psychic medium and animal communicator. Since she was a young child, Samantha could communicate with animals in a way others couldn't, and she had visions of things to come. After the passing of her mother in 2004, Samantha built a strong relationship with the spirit world, eventually opening her mediumship and psychic abilities. Connecting people to their loved ones on the other side, bridging the gap between people and animals, and helping people better navigate life are just a few of the ways Samantha helps her clients live happier, healthier, and more prosperous lives. She strives every day to show people the beauty of the universe, and she hopes to make a big enough impact to change the world. Samantha is also a Reiki master, certified spiritual coach, energy healer, and aspiring writer. With her husband, she co-hosts a weekly podcast called Spiritual Philosoph Chatter with the Joneses, where they discuss all things metaphysical, spiritual, and philosophical. She's also set to launch her own TV show in January 2024 on Bold Brave TV titled Beyond the Bridge with Samantha Jones. Samantha lives in Las Vegas, Nevada with her husband Danny, 2 Great Danes, and a Labrador Retriever. In her spare time, she enjoys hiking, dancing, and traveling as often as she can. Samantha, hi!
Hi,
Welcome!
thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so it's Tea with Intuitives. I need to ask you, what are you drinking today?
I do have some tea here, and I'm using my cup for our podcast. So I actually am an iced tea drinker. So I'm fooling you. This is iced tea, but this is what is this? This is tropical Lipton tea. Is what this is.
Okay,
I love tropical tea. Yeah, but it's
nice. And we
delicious.
need some tropical because it's November now, so it makes us feel as if we're in the South.
Yes, absolutely, and it's delicious. I love tropical tea. It's my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as for myself, I am honoring Brittany today since she cannot be with us. I am drinking an Earl Grey tea because that's her
Nice.
go-to all the time, either Earl Grey or what is it called when she puts milk in it?
Oh,
London Fog.
nice,
Yeah.
delicious.
So I'm
Very
just
good.
honoring Brittany with my Earl Grey today.
Very good. Delicious.
Yeah. So Samantha, you're an animal communicator, you're psychic, and I was reading your bio and realizing that when your mother passed in 2004, that kind of what ignited even more your connection with the spirit world. And actually, my father passed in 2005, and that's what
Wow.
ignited my spiritual awakening and communication with the spirit world. So I wanted to ask you, how was it for you? How did you get so much in contact with the spirit world?
Well, when it started, like after my mom died, I wasn't like understanding the fact that she was trying to talk to me at the very beginning. I was in such bad grief, I didn't really understand. And then I started seeing the signs. And actually, on the way to her funeral, her name was Linda, and I saw a billboard on the side of the road that said, "For a good sign, call Linda." And I was like, there's no way that I've never seen a billboard that says that. There's no way that was a coincidence. And it just started happening more and more where I was seeing her name. She died on the 13th, and like the 13th I was just seeing like crazy, and it was really frustrating at first because I'm like, this is a number I associated with the day that my mother passed away. Like, I don't want to see it all the time. But I realized there was more to it than that. And I started seeing those and hearing the songs, and things just started getting more and more and more. And then it was like we developed this language that I didn't even know was something that other people do. Like, I thought I was kind of crazy, to be honest. Like, okay, my mom's talking to me through music and through all these signs, and then realizing, wow, this is how they do it. So we built that. So she died 2004. And then let's see, what year was it? 2018 is when I really opened up my psychic and medium abilities. But all of those years, I had been working with her on learning how to communicate with her, never thinking I was going to communicate with other spirits. And then I had another medium tell me that I could do this. And she was communicating with my mom and all that. And so I just started opening it. I started going in Facebook groups, like free reading groups, and doing readings. And never for a second did I believe I was going to be able to communicate like that, not just with my mother, but with everyone. It was pretty wild. So that's how it started, and it's just developed more and more. And yeah, here I am now. It's like in 2004 when she died. I would have had no idea I was going to become a professional psychic, like a medium, especially. That never was a thought in my mind. It's just crazy how it works, isn't it? It
Yeah,
just,
I'm having
yeah.
chills right now because our stories are so similar. It's
Are they?
crazy. Yeah.
Did your dad die suddenly?
Yes, suddenly.
Yeah, my mom
Yeah.
too. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was really, really hard. And like the only thing that helped me, because I went through so much counseling and went on antidepressants and did so many things, the only thing that helped me was a medium. And I didn't even go to her thinking about that I was going to talk to my mom. I just went to her because I was having some other issues in my life to talk about. And then before we even got into those, my mom came in and I was like, whoa, what's going on? And that day changed my life. It really did, because at that moment, I allowed myself to realize, okay, she's okay and I'm okay. And now we can start to heal. And that was when the healing started. So I love to do that for other people. I love it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. They sure know how to put us on the right track.
Don't they, though? It's amazing. And to put us back on the track, like when we're getting off, they
Mhm.
just have this way of being real gentle and nudging you back on your track. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So with time, correct me if I'm wrong, but now animal communication is pretty much your specialty, pretty much what you're known for, right?
Yes. I've been doing that professionally. Oh, I don't know, like 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. But really just got really good at it after all the other abilities opened up. I mean, I was okay, but now it's like I can really connect to these animals. And that's the number one thing that people come to me for. It's really actually after the animals have passed away
Mhm.
or animals that have gone missing. The missing animals is tough because, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but at least I can help to try and narrow down, maybe where they are, that they're past or alive, that kind of thing. But yeah, those are the two things I do the most often.
Yeah. So when did you realize that you could connect to an animal?
The first time that I remember, I was 7 years old, and I had this little dachshund named Ripple. And Ripple had gotten out and she wasn't fixed. And so she got pregnant and got with another dog. And I had a bunch of friends over one day and we were playing, and I was really worried, about her. My mom made this big deal about what happened to her when she got out, like she was bruised and all this, and needed to be really gentle with her. And I was like, oh, so I wanted to be really gentle with her. And so I asked her, could you go back to your doghouse and just lay there, because I'm afraid that you might get hurt. And that's exactly what she did. And I just thought that was a coincidence, just, okay. But as I got older and older, I kept having these instances of, I just knew how these animals were feeling, what was wrong with them physically, what they needed. And then I was late teens, early 20s, and my ex-husband's aunt started talking about an animal communicator that she knew. And I was like, well, maybe that's what I'm doing. And she had bought these tapes from her to teach you how to do it. And so she loaned me those tapes and I listened to them and I started doing the work that it said to do. And that was the beginning of that. And it was wild because, nowhere along those years that I really even recognized that being an animal communicator also meant it's possible that I was a psychic and a medium, because I had visions my whole life. I just didn't put two and two together that they kind of do go together, you know? So yeah, that's how it got started.
Yeah. And how does it feel when you consciously connect to an animal?
It depends. It depends on the animal themselves. If it's a happy animal, I take on like whatever feelings. I don't. I'm sure you know what an empath is, and all of that. And so I'm an empath, not just with people, but with animals as well. So I feel them. So when I connect to them, it's like I can instantly feel what they're feeling, if they're feeling healthy. That's why with the missing pets, doing the living or past is the very first thing I do, because I can tap into their energy and feel like, is this living energy? So that's pretty much the what it feels like, is just kind of taking on a little bit of their personality. It's really interesting the way that animals communicate too. So like everything's a little bit different with each animal, and it's very different communicating with spirits as opposed to animals. Honestly, the animals are way easier for me. Like they the spirits for me, they like to be like charades and puzzles and like, what are we doing? Why can't you just tell me exactly what's going on instead of making me figure it out? Where the animals are really direct. And it's not so much of having to figure it out. It's like, if I ask them, where's your pain? They will take me right to it. A lot of times I will even feel it. So it's completely different, I would say, than connecting to a person's energy or a spirit's energy as well.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention at the beginning that I did get a reading from you. I had some questions about my cat, Chi. And so needed some reassurance there for a few things and was just really, really curious. I mean, I can do that to some extent. I do it through the Akashic records, but I was like, okay, Samantha, it's like what she does 100%. I need to get a reading from her. So excited. And so could you tell us, what are people asking in general? What kind of answers do you get from animals?
That's a great question. It depends on if the animal is living or past. If it's a past animal, the most common question I get is my pet okay? And who are they with? And then it usually goes into, I'm sorry, do they accept my apology? Something usually along the lines of that they have guilt for the way that something went. And I think that's really normal for pet owners when our pets pass away. That of course we're going to feel that guilt. We're going to go to, oh, I did this wrong, I could have done this differently, I could have spent more time with them, I could have given better food, all of those things. So those are some of the most common things. And the animals, like, those things all have a generic answer to them, and that is they are all okay and they forgive you, and most of likely they don't even have a reason to forgive you. Most likely you didn't do something that hurt their feelings, or because when we get to the other side, of course, we know everything, and so they know where your heart was, they know what your lessons were. So
Mm-hmm.
those things are like, I like to just get those things out of the way, and they're not alone. Nobody, no animal, no anything is ever alone when they cross over. So for the past pets, that's the most common. For the living pets, it's usually different depending on what the situation is. Most of the time people will come to me, they have some kind of issue with their pets, but sometimes they will just want to know what their pets are thinking. What's going on? Is there anything more that I can do? I love my animals so much. Is there anything more that I can do to make sure that they're happy and content? Other than that, I would say medical issues are the number two thing that I get. I have to be really careful with those for ethical reasons, of course. I can't, diagnose until after the animal's diagnosed. If the animal's been to the vet, this is Betty.
Oh,
Anybody that's
she's so
watching the
cute.
video, yeah, isn't
Oh,
she precious? Yeah, this is my girl.
yeah.
We rescued her.
If you're
Yeah, we rescued
listening
her a
to
while back.
this, because we're also recording video for YouTube, there is Samantha's one of her Great Danes who's there, and she's so cute.
Isn't she cute? Thank
Yeah.
you. She's an old girl. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, so with the medical issues, I have to be very careful with what I say, and
Mhm.
because you can't diagnose. I mean, ethically, I know there's some states where it's actually illegal to give a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So I just won't do that, but they will bring me into places of interest. So a lot of times, like, a person they won't know. They just know their animal's acting weird. They take them to the vet. They don't really know what to say. The vet does some blood work. It comes back fine, whatever. I can pinpoint where exactly that pain is, and then not tell them, like, if I feel like it's in the kidneys or the bladder, maybe I might feel that the animal has kidney disease, but I will say, I'm feeling pain in that area, in the kidney bladder area, so that's what I would focus on when you go to the vet. And then they can say to the vet, I'm seeing issues. Most of the time they're not going to go to their vet and go, an animal communicator told me, although I wish we lived in a world where they could. I really do. But yeah, then it does give them more of a chance to go back to their vet and say, okay, can we look at this area? And a lot of times that will help get down to what is actually going on with the pet, for sure.
Yeah. And I love what you said about grief as well, because we do have contracts with our animals. And I realized I have Chi now, and she's the reincarnation of my previous cat, Nana. And with Nana, our deal was to work both on our missions of love, which I still do with Chi, but there was also a deal where I always knew that I was there to accompany her to her death. So she would live to an old age and die at home. I always had
Mm-hmm.
that image. And now, I channeled it and I understand what the contract was, because I
Right.
didn't have an experience of seeing death and accompanying an animal or anyone through this. And I had a lot of guilt when she passed, because I realized, oh, I could have been more present, because it took several hours for her to pass. And at some point I was like, oh, I need to work and all this.
Right.
And then I realized it was part of our contract just to show me what she needed. And at the end, she passed when I was there with her, and it was so long she wouldn't pass. And she passed when I took and I cupped her head into my hands. And that's all that she needed. She really needed
Oh,
that presence and that feeling. And she decided
yeah.
to pass at that moment. And it was
Wow.
part of our contract. And like you said, the animals are saying afterwards, it's fine. It was the deal.
Yep.
I'm teaching you stuff. You're teaching me
Yes.
stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And it is hard to realize that and really process that after you've lost a pet, because especially if it's like a tragic loss or something. But like I had a dog that died, what year was that? I don't know, 2006, I think. She was 6 years old, a chocolate Labrador. And I had just taken her in for like senior blood work and everything. She came back with a great, nothing was wrong, nothing at all. And then one day we took her and our other Labrador out, and they were running around playing together. She got back in the car. And when we went to get her out of the car, she couldn't get out of the car. And what happened was that she had hemangiosarcoma, which is a tumor on the spleen, and it ruptured. And that doesn't show up in blood work. And that
Mm.
doesn't show up in a lot of things. And by the time that we dealt with it, it was too late. She died in surgery. I mean, we took her right to the vet, but there was just no time. She was losing too much blood. Anyways, the point is that was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. But that experience allows me to help so many people. And the amount of people that come to me with dogs that have died from hemangiosarcoma is incredible.
Wow.
And I can tell them, I know what you're dealing with because I've been there. And somebody that hasn't lost an animal that way might not understand that kind of pain. And that also helps me to be able to understand people when they have other kinds of sudden loss, because if you've never experienced a sudden loss, whether with an animal or a human, there's something there that you just don't understand. The sudden loss is jarring, it's life changing, even if it is an animal. That I've had a lot of people die in my life, but that dog was, besides my mom, number two, the most traumatic death experiences I've had. But I don't think I'd be the same animal communicator if I didn't have that experience. It's necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So we know that you can connect to dogs and cats. What other animals did you connect to?
Oh, all of them. Oh my gosh, I got a huge list. Well, my favorite besides dogs and cats is horses. Horses are extremely smart. They have a lot to say because most of them do not stay in one place their whole life. They move around. I've talked to horses that have been in the movies and that have been in rodeos, that have done all kinds of things. So they're my favorite. Snakes are another one of my favorites, which might sound weird, but they're really gentle creatures, and they're really personable. Like we look at them as, different, or we worry about the venomous ones, but any animal is not, they're not going to hurt you unless they have a reason to hurt you. So a snake is not going to hurt you unless you give it a reason to hurt you. So
Wow.
when it comes to any of these animals, I always think about that. I always think about, they are just like us. They have a soul. Put your whatever you've been brought up with, or those stigmas or whatever, out. But snakes, I love to talk to them. I've talked to all kinds of wild animals. When I see wild animals, I try and talk to them. Animals in the zoo. I went to a zoo recently and talked to the kangaroos, the emus, the giraffes. So yeah, I've talked to a really wide assortment of animals. So anything anybody comes to me with, I'm totally happy to talk to
Yeah.
them.
How do animals feel about being in a zoo?
That's a great question. I actually did an episode of my radio show about that, about my experience at the zoo that I went to, because I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, zoo, no." But the thing is not all zoos fit into that. They don't take care of their animals, all that. Some
Mhm.
zoos take wonderful care of their animals. They're all about conservation. And the ones that I go to definitely are the ones where I feel like the animals are treated ethically because I couldn't handle it any other way. So, one of the things that I found talking to these animals, this was the Santa Barbara Zoo that I went to in Southern California. One of the things that I found there is that they don't really realize the whole thing. Like, if these animals were born in captivity, they have no clue that their wild ancestors are out running around in the deserts of Africa, or the jungles of Australia, or whatever you want to say. They have no idea that that's what's going on. So they're not sitting there going, "Oh, I'm in a cage." And the ones that have been taken out of their home, which we don't see much anymore, like there's laws now about this, that's completely different. But the ones that I've talked to, they're very happy. They're well taken care of. They don't have complaints. And none of the animals complain that I talked to, not a single one,
That's nice
which
to
made me very
know.
happy.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And
Yeah.
as you said, we have laws now in North America. So I see that the newest zoos now are all about rescues and even bringing in rescues from Africa and all that. So that's wonderful. And
Yes.
I'm wondering, is there an animal that you connected to and you were like, I'm not getting anything. This animal is just too dumb.
Oh my gosh, that's another good question, because yes, actually, chickens and fish.
Mm.
Um, Fish are pretty like, you're not going to get much out of them. They don't have big brains. They are pretty much, looking for food or looking to not be food. So that's, yeah. If somebody asks me if their fish enjoyed their life in a tank, uh, it's kind of like the fish is like, uh, chickens are similar. They do talk more, but they also are very stupid. No offense to anybody that has chickens, because I love them, but they're pretty much the same thing. It's like food, 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 food. That's just what it's about to them. Is they're just in for the survival, and I'm not sure why that is. One of my theories, and I don't know, some people might not like this, but one of my theories is they're meant more for food. They're meant more as a part of the food chain, because fish, it's like that's like their whole cycle. Fish eat other fish, and then the animals eat the fish, and we eat the fish. So I wonder if that's maybe why those two specifically don't, have a whole lot to
Yeah. Yeah. And how about, did you ever connect to a pig or a cow? Because those get eaten a lot too.
Yes, I have, and that's different. They are very smart. They are very sensitive. Cows are very sensitive. I don't eat a lot of beef. It is one thing that I do think about. I try not to. Now I try to eat more like the impossible meat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, it is what it is. But yeah, because I do realize that these animals have a soul, and I'm not saying chickens and fish don't, because I have seen them on the other side. There was actually one time I did a reading for somebody, and they just wanted to know who was coming in, and all of a sudden I saw this fish in a fishbowl. And this lady told me that her son had a fish in a fishbowl that just died like the week before. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's the first time a fish has ever appeared. So I believe that they do have souls, because if they didn't, why would I be able to connect to them on the other side? So
Right.
yeah. And
Right.
pigs and cows, definitely. They very sensitive. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm like you. I'm flexitarian. I rarely eat meat. My daughter is actually vegetarian, so that helps.
Mine too. Mm-hmm.
Um, and just having this notion about the soul, and I know animals don't have the same level of consciousness as we do, but they are living things, and we are all
Yes.
connected. And after seeing the documentary My Octopus Teacher with my husband, we decided we do not eat octopus anymore. They are like
Oh, I
they
will
have
never.
the
Yeah.
same level of consciousness as we do.
Yeah. I didn't know that, but there's just some animals that I refuse. I absolutely refuse. And like, I love crab and lobster and stuff like that. And people are like, "Oh, those are the insects of the sea." Like, well, then I'll eat them. I don't care. But yeah, like things like that, octopus, squid, anything like that. They really do have a lot. You can see it. When I didn't see that, I try to stay away from anything that has to do with animals, any movies that have to do with animals. I'm really, really sensitive, especially if it's
Yeah,
like a
I
true
cried.
type of thing. Oh no, I don't. Then I definitely don't want to see it. But I
Mhm.
do realize that there's a lot of animals that are very highly intelligent, and yeah, no, I'll stay away from that.
Yeah, I cried during my octopus teacher, but it's a beautiful story. There's nothing
Yeah.
gore. It's just a relationship a man develops with an
Oh,
octopus. Beautiful,
oh,
beautiful
that's cool.
documentary. Yeah, yeah. And I'm curious to know because I specialize in past lives. I'm a past life psychic. And
Cool.
do animals show you their past lives?
That's a good question. They do, but most of the time it's in okay. So they're going to have past lives with you in your past lives, right? So most of the time what I see is their past lives with you in this life. I don't see like what you might the past lives of past lives. I don't do much work in that. I definitely do will answer the reincarnation questions. I love to talk about that and about if the animal is going to reincarnate and definitely all of that. And I lost my train of thought. Can you tell me again what that question
If
was?
animals show you their past lives.
Yes. Okay. So they will tell me their past lives in this life, and they will show me what's coming forward in this life. It's funny because the dog that came up, Betty, and that I was petting, she was actually with me in this life as that dachshund that I was talking to you about. That's the reincarnation of the dachshund, and it took forever for her to come back to me. But I don't know anything about her past lives from her past, like my
Mhm.
past life. Like I hope that's not confusing. But I know that we've been together in my past lives as well. I just know about her lives while she was here during while I was alive, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Right. No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
And I know the answer to this, but I need to ask this to you because I know a lot of people are wondering about it. And my husband even asked me about this week. So, can a cat reincarnate into a dog or a human, anything like that?
Everybody's beliefs are different on this. And my husband and I actually have different beliefs on this.
Hmm.
I believe that they don't come back as people, that if we're a person, we're always a person. Now, maybe, and this is still what I'm kind of trying to figure out, is maybe we evolve, right? So maybe our soul starts as like a rock, like we live the life of a rock and a tree, and then we go into an animal. But I really believe that once you're a human, you're not going to go back down. That's my belief. So our animal friends, I really don't believe that in their next life, they're going to come back as a human, but I do believe that they can come back as any animal that they want to be. I've had animals tell me that the owner could pick what animal they wanted their pet to come back as. So, and I have a Great Dane. He's here with me. They're all here with me. But my Great Dane, I truly believe was a ferret that I had when I was 18 years old, because the connection there is so similar. It's so like this, that once in a lifetime pet. And I never thought I would have it again. And now I feel it with him. So I really, truly believe that he was that ferret. So yeah, I think that they can be any pet that they want to be. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you touched on something important is that we can actually request to be again with an animal and we can choose whatever animal we want. So oftentimes animals will say, yeah, that's fine. Don't stress over that. I'm just coming to you,
Right.
whatever you choose. And they can, I don't know if you have the same belief, but if you choose, let's say, quote unquote, the wrong one, well, their souls will just communicate and say, hey, I really want to be with this owner and this owner really wants to be with me again. Is it okay if we switch bodies? And,
Yes.
98% of the time, it's like, of course, it's fine. And they just
Yes.
switch. And I said
Yes.
98, but I have a feeling it's like 100% of the time they switch and you are with the right animal. So really
Yes.
don't stress over it. You can request it and your animal is going to come back to you, and you can ask your spirit guides for proof. Like I asked my spirit guides for proof and I got it. I was asking, is she the reincarnation of Nana? And then I was getting a yes. And that was at the very beginning when I was becoming a psychic. And I was like, I was asking again just to be sure that I understand right.
Right.
And so the third time that I asked them, she entered the room and she meowed, which she never does. She's just going on, and she doesn't make any much sounds, that cat. And I was like, okay, she just entered the room and meowed loudly. Okay,
Yeah.
I got my answer. This is her. And as you said, the connection I have with her is the same I had with Nana, and it went even deeper.
Yeah.
So there you
Yes.
have your proof.
Yes, absolutely. And like Betty, the Great Dane, she is probably about 12 years old, and we didn't get her until 2 years ago. So people ask me, how does that work? Does the soul stay on the other side and then come in? Or is it in that dog and then, comes to you? I think it could be both. I think if she had some lesson with somebody else, because we don't know who's all in our soul family or what their things are, that maybe she was with that person for a reason, but she was found in the desert. She had been attacked by something. And so my take on it is that there was a different soul in that body, in Betty's body, that left when that traumatic experience happened. And Betty came in to be with us because she's the reincarnation of Ripple. I was actually hoping that she was going to be the reincarnation of my dog, Sequoia, who only died in, 2018, I believe. And so I actually went to a medium friend of mine, and she told me, she's like, no, she's a dachshund. And I was like, whoa, wait, a dachshund? Okay, that was Ripple. I wasn't expecting that. But I do think that we get to choose, but I think that our soul chooses. So like, for whatever reason, my soul wanted to be back with Ripple, where the human in me wanted to be with the dog that I had just lost, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And if that can reassure our listeners, time is fluid on the other side. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't need to stress about, oh my God, my dog or cat is in limbo and just waiting for me to adopt. No, 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 no. Time goes much faster there. And they're not kind of, oh, I'm waiting and it's boring. Not at all. They have lots
Yes.
going on and everything is fine there.
It will happen in divine timing. I'll tell you a quick story if that's okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have this client who her dog passed away about 3 months ago. And she came to me a couple of days afterwards, and she was like, I need Scooby back. I need him back right now. I need him back. And so I connected to him, and he said, it's going to be about 8 months until he came back, which is, for me, that's quick. Like, a lot of times it'll be years before they say they're coming back. So 8 months to me, I was like, oh, piece of cake. Oh my gosh, she was so upset. She wants that dog back right now. So she went to another animal communicator. That animal communicator also told her 8 months, but she didn't like the answer. So she went to another one who then told her, you can manifest whatever you want. You want your dog back now, you can have your dog back now. She started trying to find a dog that would be Scooby, and the universe started blocking her. She got in her car to go and see this puppy, and her car wouldn't start.
Wow.
Another one that she went to go look before she left the house to go see this one, her older dog got really sick and had to go to the vet. So every time that she's tried to find this dog, the universe has stopped her. So she wanted to talk to me the other day to tell me that she got it. She understood. She can't rush this. There's nothing that she can do. He will come back in 8 months. And that's just what it is. And it is really hard to understand that, because as humans, we want what we want right now. And
Yeah.
that's just not how divine timing works. And so we just have to understand, like you said, time is fluid. And for me too, I really believe that time is simultaneous. And like the time on the other side is not what you would think. It's not, there's no time. It's
Yeah.
different. So yeah, this is a human concept that we're applying to things. And we just have to learn to just sit back and let things unfold the way that they're supposed to in divine timing. As hard
Yes.
as that is.
Very
Because
well
it is
said.
hard.
And it's funny that you say that, because it was actually the contrary with my husband and I. When we lost our previous cat, we're like, we are so hurt. We don't want to adopt for the next year or two. And our daughter was like, oh no, I really want a cat. And I want it to be mine this time, because she knew that Nana was mine. We all know to which human the cat or the
Right.
dog has more connection. And
Yes.
so I was like, no, we're way, way too hurt. We want to wait. 6 months after Nana died, I'm starting to getting that itch. And at the time, I was just beginning with all that psychic stuff. So I wasn't recognizing the signs super clearly. But I really, really wanted a cat. What I didn't know is that she had just been born. And so I was like, oh my God, I want a cat. I want a cat. And so I asked my cleaning lady, I know she lives on a farm and she oftentimes has litters of cats that she's taking in. And she's like, yes, I have a litter of cats and I'm taking care of them. And I have a gray cat and she's sending me a picture. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Must be a sign she has a cat. I'm going to adopt, but I'm not getting that thing, that spark of joy, as Marie Kondo says. Sure. And then a few weeks later, I don't know why, I tell my previous cleaning lady, with whom I'm still friends with, that I'm looking for a cat. I don't know why I'm saying this. I already found a kitten that's waiting for me. And she said, I know a lady who is an assistant veterinarian, and she found a cat, not a stray cat, but an abandoned cat on her farm. Just what happened with Nana, same pattern.
Wow.
And I don't know why I said, yes, I want to adopt this one. And they sent me a video of Chi now. And it's a copy paste. It's almost a copy paste of Chi. Like they really resemble one another. Yeah, same gray and white. And so I knew, I just fell in love with that cat. I knew it was my cat. Now, if I had stuck with the other one, the small male one, it would have been Nana's soul either way. But I think maybe somehow that soul wanted to have the same pattern of being born in that way, being abandoned by her mom or whatever happened. And so that's what happened.
That's awesome. I love those kinds of stories. When they come back to you, it's just beautiful. There's just that feeling, it's like each of my dogs I have a certain feeling with, and I know that there's some soul that I'm learning a lesson with, but they all feel so different. And when they come back, it's like, oh, cool.
Yeah. And by the way, my daughter was very disappointed because it was supposed to be her cat. And we didn't know at the beginning. We didn't know it was Chi. And so she was bringing the cat in her room. And when she was a baby, she was staying a little because, they're more docile, they sleep more, they're more cuddly. But it was clear very, very quickly that it was my cat. And she was, oh no, I want us to adopt a second one. And we're like, oh no, that's way too much for us. We're just sticking with one for the moment.
Oh,
yeah, that was funny. And we love our animals so much. I want to ask you, because I remember when I had the reading with you, I asked you, how is she feeling when we're leaving for a week or two? Because we like to travel and there's only someone who comes in twice a day, morning and evenings to feed her, and that's it. And she doesn't like other people. She's a COVID catch, so she was never in contact with other humans than us for a long, long period of time. So, she doesn't get any cuddles or anything. And you really reassured me there. So I'd like you to speak on that.
Yeah, sure. So typically, we're human and we think like humans, right? And so a lot of the times we project our emotions onto our animals. I do it. Absolutely. When I go on vacation, I'm a nervous wreck. I want to know my dogs are okay. I want to know. And I have my sister stay here and I'm over the top. But my sister will tell me they are fine. They sleep. They don't do anything. They're not freaking out. They're not unhappy. They're eating. They're doing all those things. I'm the one that's being the problem. And that's okay. We're allowed to have those feelings. But our animals, as much as they might get bored and they probably do get a little bit lonely, they're fine. And they want us to have the experiences in life. And that's something that I've really learned is that, okay, we don't want to go travel us animal freaks. I love to travel, but I want to be with my dogs. But I realize that once I get home and life gets back to normal, they completely forgot about the fact that I left for a few days. Well, I still have the amazing memories of the trip that I had. And so that's what they really want us to do is just go ahead and live our lives. of course they need the care and all of that, but for the most part, they really don't care. And time is very, very different for them. They don't look at the clock. They go, they know the sun goes down, the sun goes up, but they're not counting all of those days, oh, they've been gone this long and that long. They're not doing that. That's why sometimes with cats, especially, you might come home and they're like, what? Okay, you're home. Great. Where others are like, oh, I love you, so glad you're home. That just has to do with their personality, because some are very clingy and some are used to being with us all the time. But at the end of the day, they will do fine and they want us to enjoy our lives. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do prepare Chi and I tell her, listen, it's going to be
Yes.
this amount of sunrises and then I'm back home.
Yes.
And I know preparation and explanation is something that you teach your clients, because a lot of your clients come to you because their pet has behavioral issues.
Yes. I do have a lot of those. Absolutely. And what you're talking about, like going away, any kind of life change, at all, anything that you're going to be doing, our animals sometimes do get very nervous when, like, if they see you bringing out the luggage or different things, different people in the home or whatever. One of the reasons that they do that is because they have no clue what's going on. Mm-hmm. So, like, let's say that you have an animal that's sick and you plan to put that pet to sleep, and you're taking the pet to the vet, and the pet's shaking all nervous and everything, really uncomfortable. Not shaking and nervous because you're going to put him to sleep. He's shaking and nervous because he's going to the vet and he has absolutely no idea what he's going there for. So with anything, the best thing that we can do is tell our animals what's going on. We just moved into this house, and my husband and I have a podcast, and he does like music work and production and stuff like that. So we have a studio upstairs. 2 of the 3 dogs will not go upstairs. And as you can tell, because they're all 3 in here with me, they love to be with us. So recording the first podcast yesterday was stressful for me because I knew that they didn't want us upstairs. And like, they usually will sit at the bottom of the stairs and be all crazy. So I went then through the morning yesterday, taking time to go upstairs and sit up there and connect to the dog that I knew was going to have the most problems, and just explaining to him, I'm up here because I have to work. And if you don't want to come up here, it's okay, but I have to be up here. And the more that we talk to them and the more that we explain things, the better it is. And you know what? They were fine. There was no problem. It was the first time that I was able to go up there without any of them freaking out. So whatever the situation is, it's the best thing that you can do is explain it to them. And not everybody can do that. So that's where someone like me comes in, that we can even say to your pet, you're going to the vet. Or a horse in particular that doesn't like its shoes changed out or cleaned or whatever, I can tell them this is going to help you, because a lot of horses hate that. So I tell them this is going to help you, or having toenails trimmed or whatever, any of those types of things. When it comes to behavior issues, a lot of times the problem is miscommunication, because an animal might do something and then we yell at them for doing that, but they're an animal. So they don't necessarily know exactly what it is that they're doing. Like, let's say that they like walk outside, right? And then they start barking at something. And then you walk out there, they've already stopped barking, and you go out there, stop barking. Okay, well, the dog's already stopped barking. So he has no clue what it is that you're upset with him for. So we have to talk to them and be clear about, this is what you're doing and this is why it's wrong and this is how we need to fix it. And they are very receptive, and animals will absolutely work on things with you. But as the owners, we have to be the ones to understand that they don't know English or whatever language it is that the human speaks. They know telepathy. So if you can't speak telepathy, find somebody that can, to explain it to your pet so that things can get better. And they do. The success rate with this type of thing is very, very high. Like you said, I'd like to say 100%, but it has a lot to do with the owner themselves, if they're willing to put the work in to fix the problem. And if they're not, then of course it's not going to get fixed. But from the animal standpoint, they'll fix it if they have the right kind of guidance. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you said they don't understand English or whatever language you're talking to them, but the universal language is energy. So what I do is that I do speak to my cat. I speak French to my cat, And
Yes.
so I explain things to her in my language, but there is the intention and energy going outwards. And I'm also sending her pictures. So I'm putting
Yes.
pictures up in my mind and sending the pictures to her. And so she's able to understand that way.
Yes. And that's a great point there. And actually, anybody can do that. You don't have to be an animal communicator to do that. Your animals probably, you've even noticed times where you've thought something or, told them to do something in your head and they've actually done it. And it's because they do connect to you. Even if you can't hear them back, a lot of times they will hear us. So absolutely. And the energy, absolutely. And that's another thing, is that they do feel your energy. So like, going back to that case of taking your dog to the vet to have them put down, if you're a mess and you're sitting there shaking and crying and carrying on, and your animal has no idea why you're acting like that, they're going to be anxious too. They
Mhm.
feed off of us. So the energy definitely is a huge thing as well. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say about behavioral issues, or just anything else you wish to share with our listeners?
I think the big thing is that animals have a soul and they are sensitive creatures and they're very, very smart. And we don't give them the respect that they deserve. And I think that it's important that if we're going to have animals in our lives, that we treat them as if that is a human in our life. I mean, obviously there's differences, but they deserve to be respected. They deserve good treatment. To be well taken care of. So where a lot of people might frown on rehoming an animal, if they're not being taken care of properly, I always tell people it's okay to give that pet another chance. It's
Mhm.
okay to find somebody that can treat them that way, because they do deserve that. Don't throw your dogs in the backyard and forget about them. Don't lock your cats in a bedroom and go in there and just feed them and change their litter box out once a day. That's not a life for an animal, for any animal. A reptile in a tank, if you just there to look at this animal, they need more than that. And I think that's the biggest thing that in my work I want people to know is respect the animals because they deserve it. I mean, I
Yeah.
could talk about animals for days and days and days, go over every scenario, but yeah.
Yeah, with all the examples that you have and clients.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
I'm planning on writing a few books. I'm actually in the process of writing one about intuitive animal training so that people can learn how to teach their animals how to do the proper behaviors. And I don't like to say how to do what they want them to do, because this is a partnership. You and your animal are partners. But I want to teach people how to be able to communicate with their animals and train them on a level other than shit, lay
Yes.
down, do what I tell you to do, because my personal opinion is that's not how it's supposed to be.
Mhm. Wow, this is going to be so useful. Keep us posted when the book comes out. I know
For
writing a book
sure.
is a long process, but please keep us to date on that.
I absolutely will.
Thank you, Samantha, for coming on the Tea with Intuitives podcast. You can reach Samantha by visiting her website at samanthajonespsychicmedium.com and follow her on Facebook and TikTok at Beyond the Bridge 11 and on Instagram at Samantha Jones Psychic Medium. Now, for those of you wondering where Brittany is, she is a busy lady. She is on hiatus from her healing and coaching business for the rest of the year because she's concentrating on her art and photography businesses. And you can actually buy her beautiful paintings or book a photo shoot with her at heartofbrit.com. You can also check her artist profile at Studio Brit Woods and her photographer profile at Brit Lenses, both on Instagram. As for myself, there is some new stuff going on as well. So you might have noticed on my Instagram, I talk a lot about elementals, and that is because I work with them more and more, and I am prepping for you a series of guided healing journeys with the elementals. So make sure you subscribe to my newsletter to get the launch promo on this. And I'm also personally undergoing a meditation teacher certification. to go deeper in my meditation practice and better help my channeling students, because as I always say, no meditation, no connection. So that's exciting as well. And tomorrow I am featured in the Glimmering podcast. So if you don't know my story yet, if you don't know how I became psychic, I am being interviewed by Joy Ueno, and the Glimmering is just a magical podcast. It's my favorite podcast right now. So don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get to listen to my story. Okay, so thank you everyone for listening to the Tea with Intuitives podcast. As always, if you have a question, you can send it at teawithintuitives@gmail.com or via Instagram or YouTube. And remember that your support is crucial in helping this podcast grow and reach more like-minded souls. So don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. And if you're on YouTube, comment and give us a thumbs up. Okay, thanks everyone, and have a beautiful week. Bye.